Section 6.1 Part 2, we're going to deal with simplifying rational expressions in this particular lesson. So the steps for simplifying a rational expression are as follows. Number 1, factor the numerator and denominator if possible. Remember that the numerator in a fraction is the top, the denominator in a fraction is the bottom. And number 2, cancel out factors that are exactly the same. If there's one on top and one on bottom, you cancel them out, and it makes the fractions simpler. And then I guess there's actually really a third step where you write what's left over after you've canceled out. So example 1, we want to simplify, and we want to simplify. If the rational expression cannot be simplified, then we want to say that. So on this one, we are going to factor on top and bottom. So x squared minus 9, if there's a minus sign and there's two terms, we need to square root both of them and split this up so that it's x plus 3 and x minus 3. Okay, always, 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 whenever it's a minus sign and you can square root both, it splits up into x plus 3, x minus 3. The bottom is just x minus 3 because we can't factor x minus 3 into anything more simple. And so we look and see what's the same on the top and the bottom and cancel them out. And then we're left with, on this one, x plus 3 for our answer. We could put x plus 3 over 1 because when we cancel out, technically there's ones wherever we've canceled something out, but we don't need to write over 1. It's kind of being like repetitive, so we just leave our answers x plus 3. Example 2, let's do some more factoring. On top, you cannot factor, so it stays x plus 2. On bottom, you can factor by splitting up into two parentheses, where we need to say what multiplies to give us negative 6, and since it's a negative 6, it's going to subtract to give us negative 1. So think about, what do I multiply together to get 6? 1, 6, 2, and 3. If I subtract 1 and 6, I'm not going to get a negative 1, but if I subtract 2 and 3, I might. The order I need to do that is I need to do 2 minus 3. That gives me the negative that I want. So this is plus 2 minus 3. We cancel x plus 2's. Now anytime we cancel, we've got 1's there, and so on top we do have a 1, on bottom we have x minus 3, and this time we do need that 1 because 1 over x minus 3 and just x minus 3 aren't the same thing. If it's on the bottom of a fraction, you need to have that 1 on top. Example 3 is pretty tricky. On top, 3x minus 5, you cannot factor anything out of that because they don't have a number in common or x is in common. You can't square root both things, so it gets left alone for now. On the bottom, we have a minus sign and we have two things we can square root. Square root of 25 is 5. The square root of 9x squared is 3x. So we do 5 plus 3x, 5 minus 3x. And then when we go to cancel out, we need to look at this and say, these are close to being the same thing, but they're not the same because this is a positive 3x minus 5. This is a positive 5 minus 3x. The signs are backwards. If everything is the same except for the signs are completely backwards from each other, on top here or on bottom, whichever one you want to, but only do it to one of them, you can take out a negative 1, and it switches the sign. So instead of having a positive 3x, we'd have a negative 3x. And instead of having a negative 5, we'd have a positive 5. So the bottom we're leaving alone. And now see how 5 minus 3x, and then we could rewrite this even more and say it's 5 minus 3x. And then these are the same thing. So that leaves us with negative 1 over 5 plus 3x as our answer. And example 4, on top there's two terms, so we square root both and get x plus 4, x minus 4. And then on bottom, we need to know what multiplies to get 16. Since it's a positive 16, it needs to add to get negative 8. So that's going to be x minus 4, x minus 4. We cancel out what we can. We have an x minus 4 on top and x minus 4 on bottom. Since x plus 4 and x minus 4 are not the exact same, our factors that are left over, that's how we would leave it, as x plus 4 over x minus 4. And that right there is our answer. I also want to point out, though, how to do one more thing, and this is actually one of the problems in the assignment, because this is different than any of them that we did. You cannot square root both of these on either the top or the bottom, so we wouldn't do like what we did up here where we split it up. Instead, remember back to the greatest common factor stuff we did where we said, what number can I divide both of these by? I can divide both of them by 4, so we write that on the outside, and then we say, well, what's left over if I take out a 4 from these? It'd be x plus 5. And then on the bottom, we look at this and say, okay, what do they have in common? They don't have a number, but they both have x's. So we have x, we take it out, and that leaves us with x plus 5. That lets us cancel those out and gives us an answer of 4 over x. So that wasn't on the notes, but there was a problem like that on the assignment. So now you should be fully prepared for the assignment.